Dr. Bill Weiss is a professor of dairy cattle nutrition for the Ohio State University, OARDC, and has been a part of the university since 1988. Today, he's going to provide a little more outlook on basic nutrition and what he's studied throughout his many years. Be sure to join us on November 14th for Dairy Day, brought to you by Krauss Dairy and CFAES at The Ohio State University, to hear more about his specialization in dairy nutrition. Obviously, you do your research in nutrition. So what are some of the biggest nutritional tips you have, just obviously to maximize performance or anything, some of the big revelations that you've found in your research or anything like that?
Well, we knew this 100 years ago, and still it's forage. Forage quality still makes milk. Mm-hmm. And what we've been doing for the last 30 years is to figure out ways that when forage isn't great, how you can put together diets and still get reasonable production, but again, it's still all forage.
Okay.
There's a lot more feeds available now than there was byproducts from human food production, so we can use those, cheapen diets. So I'd say right now the emphasis isn't on more milk, which is always important, but it's on more efficiency and lower cost.
Okay.
In other words, the cow production keeps going up every year, and that's not going to change, but we need to keep costs low. So.
Okay. So as far as byproducts go, obviously, I know I did a paper way back when on sugar beet byproducts using the pulp from that. I know out west, Idaho and that, they use potato byproducts. So as far as those go, what would be kind of your favorite one to substitute in? Or
it's, in the Midwest, byproducts have to be cheap, and so you can't move them far. And a lot of these byproducts are wet, so again, it's local. In the Midwest, we do a lot of wheat milling, so wheat mids are very common. Soy hulls, we do a lot of crush here, so a lot of soy hulls. Some beet pulp, not very much. Beer, we drink a lot of beer, so we got some breweries, wet brewers grains, very common. And then distiller grains, we have distilleries, and those are fairly common, but that's usually a dry product, so it can be sold and shipped everywhere.
Okay.
But predominantly, we have a Frito-Lay plant right down there, so we have potato waste as well. So they're local, semi-local things that are cheap is what you want to use.
So as far as, with the research that you've been doing or, reading up on, what's the latest and greatest technology regarding nutrition that you think every dairy producer should consider?
Well, a lot of our research here the last several years is on health.
Okay.
Healthy cows produce more milk. It's better for the cow and it's better for the farmer. Emphasis on, we do a lot of vitamin research, and we now got ways to reduce mastitis, metritis, retain placenta with proper vitamin nutrition. Vitamins are expensive, so there's an optimum. There's not too much, so pay attention to the trace nutrient supplementation. And then again, with forage, we're developing new lab tests that hopefully will allow us to formulate better diets with these newer tests that are now available.
Okay. And I know you've been at OSU since 1988. What are some kind of cool things that you've seen that have come from OSU as far as that goes?
Well,
with developments?
OSU and OARDC has had a very good history in dairy nutrition long before I ever got here, and I think we've continued that. Major areas that we've had significant effects or impacts on is we're known worldwide for vitamin research, and again, that started long before I got here. We have a very good reputation on trace mineral research relative to both milk quality and health. We also do a lot on digestibility or feed efficiency, on developing ways to estimate this. I'd say those are the areas that we're best known for.
Okay. So as a general rule, what type of diets do you think are the most effective in increasing production or just increasing efficiency?
Well, it starts with forage again.
Yeah.
And again, in the Midwest and in Ohio, we grow corn better than we grow alfalfa.
Okay.
weather is just not perfect for alfalfa. And this winter was terrible.
Yeah.
Last winter was just terrible.
This year was awful for that.
But we still know a blend of corn and alfalfa is still the best.
Okay.
But we're going to be, in this area of the world, we're going to be predominantly, the forage is going to be predominantly corn with some alfalfa. That still works much better than all corn silage diets. And other than that, like I said, people can get milk from a whole host of diets.
Yeah.
There's no one diet that's best. You don't want to rely too much on a single feed, because if that feed is bad, you're going to suffer. But just work with a nutritionist and get well-balanced diets. Again, you could get milk from a whole host of diets.
Okay. And then my last question is, so obviously you've given, over 125 journal articles, you've given speeches all over the world. So what is your most memorable speech, or whether it's, the place that you went, or whether, it was your first one and you were really nervous and that sort of thing?
I can hardly remember the talk I gave last week, but I can remember my first talk, and that was 30-some years ago, and that was in New Orleans. It was on ammoniated corn silage, and it was my master's degree. So I remember that.
A lot on the line.
But we go to, again, the reputation of Ohio State in dairy nutrition is very good. And so we get asked, all of us get asked to give talks on research all around the world. And, you go to a lot of places. After a while, you get sick of traveling, but you do meet lots of nice people. And you get a lot of ideas, too. Like I was in Brazil just a few weeks ago. They feed very different diets, and it gives you ideas to what can we bring from down there up here to study. So I say it's like I said, I remember my first one best, but all these give us research ideas. If you do your job, you're out looking for ideas all the time. So.
And then to kind of branch off that, with all the different places that you've been, is there a country or a state even, I guess, that sticks out to you the most in your mind as far as most unique in production, or they do something, really interesting that you've never kind of seen before, anything like that?
Well, in Central America, it's all U.S. Holsteins, or mostly U.S. Holsteins, but they graze. It's a grazing system, because that's what they graze on hills that we fall off. And it's just amazing, what they have to feed these guys just so they can walk out to the pasture. It's they feed diets here that would make cows look fat as can be. And over there, they're not starving, but they're clearly thin. And it's just because of all this energy they have to expend. And I think people forget that the grazing isn't free. You're paying the cow rather than the diesel bill, but there's a fee. So seeing this, and again, the way these cows can actually graze on these hills, which is just unbelievable. But again, it's very evident the cost of grazing in those situations.
So when was the last time you would have traveled down to Central America for production systems?
I'm going in 2 weeks. But, I usually go to Central America, Costa Rica, Panama, those about once a year. We teach a class down there. Then on dairy nutrition, and then one day we usually take the whole class out to a farm and try to apply what they've been taught. So I usually go down about once a year.
I need to take that class.
It's fun.
Sounds like
long
it.
Days,
yeah,
I bet.
So with going down there, every year, have you seen a lot of switch over to the Holstein gear crosses to kind of for the heat tolerance, or not as much?
In Central America, most of the cattle are raised. It's hilly, and they're raised on higher elevation, so it's actually cool. When you get to South America, Brazil, Argentina, especially Brazil, Argentina is far enough south that away from the equator. But Brazil, you see a lot of crosses. You see a lot of Holstein. Heat stress is a major issue down there. So you see crosses, they know they're not as good, but they can handle the heat. And so, you see a lot of those in the gear, and then there's one other cross that they look humped Holsteins.
I used to work on the bull stud side of the dairy industry before I came here, so with working in that, we would see a lot of those cross bulls coming in just, to kind of try them out for the southern part of the world, and it was just kind of cool. So I was curious how that...
It cost you milk, there's no question, but they may be in the whole, when you look at everything, you can get them bred, everything else, it may be better. But you'd start thinking, why don't they move the cows farther south away from the equator and get a little cool off? But the whole infrastructure has to change. So, but you do see, again, more in southern Brazil, you see a lot of U.S. Holsteins, or I should say Holsteins. I don't know if they're U.S., but probably U.S. Holsteins.
Yeah, probably shipped down there originally and then just grew. All right. Well, that was the last question that I had for you. So if you have any additional comments or anything.
I think you covered it well.
Yep.
So.
All righty. That's just a small tidbit of what you can expect on November 14th at Dairy Day at the Secrest Arboretum Welcome Center and Krauss Dairy in Worcester, Ohio. Thanks for listening.